Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's Enrichment Series webinar. I am your host, Amir Ganad, and I'm here with our guest speaker, Betsy Bluestone, leads scouting and partnerships for P&G Ventures, where she sources brands, technology, capabilities, and talent for P&G Startup Studio. She has 30 years of sales and brand management experience and has worked across channels, geographies, billion-dollar brands, startups, and acquisitions. Betsy, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to turn it over to you so you can go ahead and share your presentation with us.
Good morning. As Amir said, my name is Betsy Bluestone, and I'm the Global Director of Scouting and Partnerships within P&G Ventures. It's my job to find technologies, brands, and capabilities that underpin the new brands and categories we are creating within P&G Ventures. I know that many of my P&G friends, P&G alum friends are here today, and I'm super excited to tell you the P&G Ventures story. Our story begins with a question, one that P&G's former CEO, A.G. Lafley, asked our founder, Lee Radford. It was 2015, and as you probably remember, P&G was struggling. We'd not been able to get back on track following the financial crisis of 2008 and the deep recession that followed. AG had come back as CEO after retiring 5 years before and was leading a massive restructuring. The company was streamlining its portfolio of businesses, going from nearly 200 brands to around 65. With the belief that P&G needed to be smaller and more focused to grow at the level our industry requires. Yet even as he was leading this massive divestiture of brands, AG wanted to get back into the business of creating new brands, not from inside P&G, but from outside P&G, and not in the company's existing categories, but in entirely new ones. And there was only one person he wanted leading the way, Lee Radford. She's a freedom fighter, known for building successful brands like Olay and Vicks. She describes herself as hands-off and sleeves rolled up, and I can attest that that's exactly the kind of leader that she is. With a bit of negotiation between Lee and AG and a handshake, P&G Ventures was born. So much has happened in the 5 years since. We've truly broken the mold on P&G's efforts at venture building. But nothing has been more important than being crystal clear on the problem that we were trying to solve and for whom. As is always the case, we became crystal clear on who would be consuming and how they would be consuming in the future. This dictated the spaces that we would play in. Big picture, our who is urban millennials, the Chinese rising affluent, and aging boomers. We've also recently done some work with Gen Z to make sure that their perspective shapes the development of our brands in the future. We got underway by looking at several macro shifts that we believe were shaping consumers' expectations and habits. Things like the trend towards biological balance or harmony with nature, or the acceleration of connectivity, this idea that everything is connected to everything. And finally, managing resources. Yes, things that are obvious like water and energy, but also time and personal energy and expertise. These and other macro shifts help us focus on problems where the consumer is not satisfied with current solutions and where P&G categories aren't currently focused. They helped us see where we could build new brands and grow billion-dollar businesses with the right partnerships, technologies, and insights. We set our sights on a clear set of categories and preserved flexibility to evolve the mix as opportunities emerge. At the moment, we're concentrating on the key jobs to be done in the categories that you see on the screen right now. The first is an area called chronic conditions. This includes skin problems like eczema and psoriasis, and we're also working in an area that we're calling resilience to allergies. The next space is sleep. Sleep is a problem that plagues nearly every generation today, and we are asking, how do we help people fall asleep, stay asleep longer, and wake up refreshed? Our women's wellness work has already tackled the symptoms of menopause, and I'll talk to you about that brand in a minute, and we're just getting started. Likewise, our men's wellness team is working on the challenges that are holding men back. This next space, personal performance, is full of opportunity as consumers tell us that the inability to focus and manage stress are problems they desperately want to solve without the trade-offs associated with many prescription solutions. I'm going to talk a lot about trade-offs as we go. Balance protection represents a new cluster of jobs for us. And the essence of this need stems from the idea that in a world where manic cleaning is everyone's reality, we aim to create solutions and products that amplify the good while getting rid of the bad. The next space we're calling active aging. It's a fascinating space to work in. While 10,000 adults in the US turn 65 each day and want to age at home, almost all of the innovation in the space is designed for and targeted towards institutional care. This is important because cost-cutting is at the center of institutional care. Consequently, most aging adults and their caregiving ecosystems remain significantly underserved, creating a unique opportunity to build solutions around the many struggling moments faced in the in-home context. So far, we focused on incontinence, hydration, and de-risking showering. This last space we call non-toxic home and garden, but it's all about finding sustainable solutions to pesky problems like ants in your kitchen or spiders in your screened-in porch without the knock-on effects of using neurotoxins around your family and pets. These are categories, all of them, with major unsolved problems where P&G brands don't compete and yet are synergistic with the balance of our business. Our job within Ventures is to source superior technology and products that drive brand choice in these areas and in many others. So let's talk about a little bit about what's in market today. We always have somewhere between 15 and 20 projects in our pipeline. We've launched a number of brands into the DTC and traditional retail that we have tremendous confidence in. This first one, Bodewell on the left, is a proprietary blend of serums and creams that provide powerful and safe solutions for eczema, psoriasis, and sensitive skin, all without a prescription. The consumer stories and before and afters are absolutely insane on this brand. If you want to take a look, you can visit us at bodewell.com. The next one is a beauty device called Opday. It digitally scans your skin, analyzes your complexion, and camouflages age spots and hyperpigmentation on contact while fading their appearance over time. Opday launched a few weeks ago in China, and you can get on the waiting list for Opday in the US at opday.com. This next brand, Kindra, is the change that the change has been waiting for. In addition to providing community and information on a subject that is often considered taboo, Kindra is a collection of estrogen-free products to help soothe the irksome symptoms of menopause. You can find this brand on ourkindra.com. The last brand that you see on the right is the one that we also have in brick and mortar. Zevo is a non-toxic insecticide that targets nervous system receptors vital to insects, but not in people or pets. That means it really works, and you can use it on bugs inside and outside of your house without worrying about its impact on your loved ones or pets. You can find this brand at Home Depot and Target on shelves in nearly every store in the US and also at zevoinsect.com. We've built what I think is a remarkable team, people who have the agility and mindset of an entrepreneur and the expertise and experience of a senior leader. We're also testing new business models like our launch partner, M13. M13 is a full service venture studio that is getting P&G startups ready for growth at the speed of scale with the depth of Procter understanding. So the way this works is we create the brands on our own or with entrepreneurs within P&G Ventures. And once we know that we have proof that the proposition works in market, we've sent a few off to M13 to grow to the right size before we hopefully bring them back to scale within P&G. Beyond this relationship with M13, we've also built a portfolio of relationships with founders, partners, and inventors who are bringing together in this community of creators. These are people that we're confident will keep discovering new ways to work together. It's been an exciting run, and we're really just getting started. So with those basics as a backdrop, I want to continue the story by bringing you inside our studio. I want to talk about three main areas. First, I'll explain why and how we do what we do. I'll share the framework of our beliefs and insight that are making P&G Ventures a venture studio truly like no other. And I also want to talk to you about why we are placing disproportionate emphasis on finding and working with female founders. My hope coming out of this session is to connect with any of you who have a venture idea or know of an entrepreneur with an idea you think we should be considering. Because you understand P&G from the inside out, your insights and advocacy are invaluable to us. So let's jump back into where the beginning of our story left off. One of the things that has made P&G so successful is our remarkable clarity of brand vision. It's the one reason why a brand exists, and we approach that vision with no tolerance for trade-offs. Our one reason why is based on deep consumer insight, superior technology, a balance of business and design, and flawless consistency. We bring that same clarity of vision to every brand we launch from our studio. But before we could do that, we needed to clarify the vision for P&G Ventures itself. So we agreed on three basic facts. First, innovation is P&G's lifeblood, but P&G is not fundamentally a disruptive innovator. The company focuses on what we call sustaining innovation, innovation on big brands in core categories designed to maintain and extend category leadership. The second basic fact is that new brands that solve the biggest unsolved consumer problems almost always require disruptive innovation. Marginal innovation won't cut it. If it did, the problems would have been solved already. The third basic fact is that entrepreneurs are often the best source of disruptive innovation. Throughout this presentation, I'll use that generic term entrepreneur, but know that I mean inventors, founders, and entrepreneurs. They all define problems and pain points with incredible precision. They tend to see the bold possibilities that are often harder for established brands to see, or at least for us to accept. They move incredibly fast, learn as they go, and take the kind of risks that are necessary to solve problems no one else has figured out how to solve. What was clear when we started out was that if P&G was going to get back in the game of creating new brands by solving big unsolved problems, we needed entrepreneurs, and we needed entrepreneurs to need us. This video will give you a good feel for the studio and how we partner.
PGV is an internal startup studio within Procter & Gamble, and our purpose is to be able to partner with entrepreneurs who have great ideas within the key categories or spaces that we're looking to work in.
You know, as we work with entrepreneurs, one thing that P&G Ventures brings is all the infrastructure that comes around with P&G. Everything from supply chains to R&D, regulatory, branding, communication, endorsements, things like that, because we have been around 180 years across many, many categories, we have a lot of relationships and a lot of skill base. And making that accessible to entrepreneurs is really where we think the magic happens.
Procter had all of the capability necessary, this deep and comprehensive expertise in doing this consumer product development. And so one of the things that happened in this partnership is they were able to help us understand where are the gaps. We as a team started to recognize the gaps, and then they leaned in with intense level of expertise to start to fill those gaps.
PGV brought in so many great resources for us, and they just supported us through the whole thing. They had specialists that knew exactly what to do. It was really incredible, and it just took everything to a whole new level, somewhere we didn't think we'd ever get.
There's a lot of stuff that we've learned how to do well because we're great at it or just because we failed at it. And there's a ton of things that entrepreneurs just shouldn't have to learn if they've got the right partner. When it comes to filing patents, when it comes to regulatory navigation, when it comes to how do you sell into a Home Depot or a Target, that's stuff that we do every day.
Well, without partnership, I don't think we could achieve changing the market. It's just not marketing and getting into retail, and it's just not technology that really works and solves a consumer problem. It's the marriage of the two.
One thing I love about this job is watching dreams come true for entrepreneurs. They have passion and energy, and they are determined to solve a problem for a consumer. And a lot of the issue sometimes is the how. And being able to see the products on shelf and see it in Target and Walmart or online, seeing those dreams come alive for those entrepreneurs and for P&G Ventures together as a partner, that makes for a good day.
So the brand that you saw in there that was Metaderm has been rebranded to be Bodewell. So just to make that connection there, and then of course you saw Zevo as well. As I said just before the video started, if P&G was going to get back into the game of creating new brands by solving big unsolved problems, we needed entrepreneurs, and we needed entrepreneurs to need us. Which meant we needed to ask the same question about entrepreneurs that we ask about consumers. What is the most important problem we can solve for them? I love that question. What is the most important problem we can solve? It pushes you into uncharted territory. Extreme challenges demand bold innovation, but the solutions to unsolved problems tend to come with trade-offs. Understanding the problem and refusing to accept the trade-offs is the path to a great brand vision. In our case, we know that founders face a fairly universal dilemma as they try to scale their businesses. On the one hand, they can get venture capital funding or funding from other investors. And for many entrepreneurs, this is exactly the right path. But given the equity exchange and the associated accountability, it isn't the right path for everyone. Those who don't want to go down the VC path can develop partnerships with potential acquirers, which are often large corporations like P&G. But the complexity of those relationships can kill a new venture before it has any chance of scaling. This puts entrepreneurs in a tough spot. Give up equity and control for the chance to scale, or hold on to equity and control at the risk of being bled to death by corporate bureaucracy. It's a tough trade-off for sure. So we started thinking and we said, what if we eliminated the trade-offs? What if we give entrepreneurs an alternative to venture capital that doesn't bury them in complexity? What if we said, we're not looking for fast exits, we're looking for ideas and technologies that can grow for decades. And we're not looking for entrepreneurs with whom we can build, and we're looking for entrepreneurs with whom we can build lifelong relationships. And what if we said, we'll invest in your success, whether or not we make an acquisition or investment offer, and we'll give you incredible expertise to help you grow without the paralyzing complexity that stops you in your tracks. The more we kept saying what if, the clearer our vision for P&G Ventures became. We help founders with disruptive ideas build brands with billion-dollar potential. And we do so without the complexity of corporate partnership or the loss of equity that comes with venture capital. That vision and the capability we've built around it is what sets us apart it solves a big problem without the painful trade-offs. It's our driving force. Of course, a great brand vision only matters if it's well executed. How matters every bit as much as what and why. For us, how comes down to a few core beliefs. The beliefs reflect the way we build brands and build relationships. They give you the best sense of what it's like to work alongside the P&G Ventures team. So first, go long, go big, solve major problems. We operate with a long-term orientation. This too differentiates us from venture capital. We build brands that are designed to be global leaders, and we tackle problems no one else has yet solved. In other words, we're interested in brands that consumers around the world will love and want in their lives forever. The second core belief is to be human, generous, and fair. We believe human relationships make the best business partnerships based on empathy, generosity, and honesty. This means we build personal relationships with founders. We treat every partnership as unique, and we focus less on taking equity and more on being equitable. This third belief is about being inclusively agnostic. We believe in entrepreneurs, experts, and change makers of every gender, race, ethnicity, orientation, and ability. And we go out of our way to find and work with these amazing people. Every relationship that we have with one another as a team and with every one of our partners is built on these beliefs. If you come and spend time in our studio, we bring entrepreneurs together with P&G experts in brand building, product development, manufacturing and logistics, packaging and design, regulatory, go-to-market, and so much more. You'll see these beliefs in action if you come to visit us. That third belief about inclusion is the perfect bridge into the next area I want to touch on, and that's our focus on female founders. This is both a passion and a strategy, and like the way we run P&G Ventures generally, it's grounded in a core belief. The world needs women. I know that seems obvious, but I need to give you the backdrop. It's important to understand that in 2018, female-founded businesses received 2.2% of the $130 billion in venture capital that was dispersed. Just 2.2%. This fact started us thinking about how might the world be different if we could give women access to the same venture building resources men have. The answer seemed obvious to us and inspiring. After all, nearly all of the categories we are currently focusing on are exclusively or highly relevant to women. And we know they will bring unique insights that come from simply being who they are. They often focus on different problems than men tend to focus on. They see different ways to solve those problems, and they generally build and lead teams with different and more inclusive instincts. And the truth is, as a result, women-led ventures outperform those launched and led by men. Female founders are a great bet. Now, you may be asking yourself, are we only looking for female founders? Of course not. Whoops, of course not. But we have found that without an overt plan, we would likely end up without any female founders. One of the surprises for us was how hard it is to find the female founders we want to meet. We weren't on their radar. We were running in different circles. So a big part of my job is getting in their circles. P&G Ventures has established partnerships with the Veneta Project, Springboard, I Fund Women, and Female Founders Fund so that we are at the center of female founder networks and are in the best position to support, mentor, and partner with the most promising female-founded businesses. I love that P&G has taken such strong stands on gender equality and being a great company for women. And I'm excited by our commitment to be as great a company for women entrepreneurs outside P&G as we are for women leaders inside P&G. This is just one example of how we create networks to help P&G Ventures source superior technology and brands. but it is indicative of the thoughtful approach we have taken to each aspect of our model. I want to be sure that we have time for questions, so I will wrap it up here. Our vision is clear, our beliefs are empowering, and the spirit of our community is truly invigorating. If you have an idea, or if you know someone with an idea and you think we could help make it real and make it big, we're eager to talk. Please reach out to me. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Betsy. Really appreciate that presentation. I tell you what, P&G, even though the core beliefs and everything are so much in line with what I remember and love about P&G, it's clearly, P&G is not the old P&G, or continuing to evolve, and it just feels so refreshing and awesome. So thank you for that update. We do have a couple of questions that have come in, and I would encourage all of our listeners, the participants, to go ahead and submit your questions now, and I will ask as many questions as I possibly can. So one question says, can Betsy share a little bit more about how they eliminate the trade-off between venture capital firms and big corporations? How are you equitable per the core beliefs? Can you say more about that?
Sure. Yeah, it's really interesting. You can imagine that P&G is not excited to have a bunch of small brands or small businesses, external businesses on its balance sheet. And so as we started to think about what the entrepreneurs really needed, what became clear is that our capabilities as a company were as valuable to them as money was. So if they said, I need $750,000 to do a clinical study, and we thought that the technology was really promising, we might just pay for that clinical study. Now, of course, there are, as we think about kind of long-term, if something is successful, if we continue to progress it, of course, we want the opportunity to be able to either license technology or acquire a brand or do a joint development with that business. But generally, we do not take equity in the early stages of our relationship.
Got it. Very good. Thank you. The next question is, what sectors are your investment mandating? Let's see. And which geographies and which sectors are you investing in mostly?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'm always careful to use the word investment because it triggers for most people that we're running a fund, which we aren't. What we really are is a startup studio, but our view is global. And in fact, our scouting, which is the piece of the organization that I lead, we use some machine-enabled tools and things like that help us to see what's happening on a global basis. So innovation really can come from any place. Our lead markets are the US and China for lots of obvious reasons. So we generally start either, when we first put something into market, we either do that in the China market or in the US market, and then generally flip to the other one as our second location. And you see that with the Opte launch that I was talking about, where we launched first in China. We think that the technology has tremendous ability to grow in both markets, but China made the most sense first. And then, as I said, we've actually just launched in the US, and I think we've got something like 10,000 consumers on our waiting list.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I don't know how much you can share about this, but the question has come in that, first of all, this is incredibly inspiring. The person who's asking the question is curious, how does Ventures fit into the organizational structure? Does it sit in a function? Who does it report up to? Things like that.
That's a great question. So Ventures, so the idea when Lee and AG initially sort of came to a deal on starting up Ventures reported directly to AG and then to David Taylor for a while. After we had gone through all of our restructuring, Ventures was paired with family care. And so if you look at what Mary Lynn Ferguson McHugh has on in her core responsibilities, it includes both business units. We still have a tremendous amount of access to David Taylor and John Mueller, and the work in Ventures is often reviewed with the board, but today reports into Mary Lynn.
Very good. And someone is asking about the contact information. If you could just share that once again, and I'm going to put that, like, if someone has an idea or they want to approach you guys, where would they go?
They can email me. So Bluestone, just like it sounds, BLUESTONE.EJ@pg.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn.
Very good. Thank you so much. And I'm going to put that in the chat box for everyone. Yes, so let's see what other questions we have. Does this group follow traditional, simple stage gate design, or is it a more agile commercialization process?
It definitely is. Our model follows the kind of lean startup approach. And so, early on when we're doing this consumer understanding in a particular space, we kind of go through all of that jobs to be done work and then searching for solutions and progress really up to the point where we get to what we call proof of proposition, which basically says we've got something and we've tested it in market. The consumer is receptive. They're willing to pay the price for it. And so once we kind of get to that level through a lean startup kind of approach and think about scaling the business, we shift into the simple gates. So it is, it's a bit of a hybrid model. And I think truly the reason why we've even, moved into the simple process has to do with just the rigor that's required once you start to be in brick and mortar stores. So the Zevo brand, as I mentioned, is in Home Depot and Target today. And in order to really scale the brand to be able to meet the needs of a retailer, we needed to go through those gates. So the answer is hybrid.
Okay, so another question is, when outside ideas overlap with internal innovation, how do you navigate avoiding allegations that P&G stole someone's idea or concept?
It's a great question. So we are really clear in early conversations with founders and inventors and entrepreneurs in general that the conversations are non-confidential. And so if somebody comes to us with a product that is not in market, and I'll tell you, we really got a balance of projects that we are working on where our lead technology is already generating revenue and is in the market in one location or another. And then those that are a little bit earlier in their life stage and aren't in market yet. And we are very clear that we, until we get to having a non-disclosure or a confidentiality disclosure agreement, that nothing that is confidential should be shared with us. When we do move to that stage of receiving confidential information, the first thing that we are doing is checking to make sure that we're considering any technological or invention overlaps that we may have within broader P&G. And so it is a tricky balance, to be able to see innovation, to see it in a way that is not confidential, and be able to then make a call if you want to move to the next step. So far, I would say we've navigated it pretty well. It can be a little bit frustrating because we don't often move as fast as the entrepreneur wants to that NDA or CDA level with them, but it's a place where we really have to be cautious.
Very good, thank you. Another question is, what are sort of the key criteria for qualifying to work with you guys as an entrepreneur?
It really stems, almost everything starts with the technology, and founding teams are, of course, incredibly important to the success of a business, but we are a science company. And so if you look at our networks and the places that we scout for solutions, we do a ton of work with universities and federal labs and places where we can find technology. We're very focused on the technology being consumer noticeably superior. And so, again, when you're in the game of solving problems that haven't been solved to the consumer's satisfaction, you have to set a really high bar for how you think about the technology that you bring to market. So we don't want to be an and. We definitely want to be the leader in every category that we enter. And so superior technology is at the start. The second thing is moat. And that essentially says, if our intention is to build billion-dollar brands that are going to be in market for decades, the technology has to have protection around it. It has to be difficult for others to follow on and copy the technology. And so we do look for technology that is protected. Oftentimes, if it isn't protected, the key question is there line of sight that we could get to something that would have IP that would keep others from copying the idea. So definitely a focus there. And then I think the last one is just a point of difference, and maybe this overlaps some with superior technology, but we are looking to solve problems in a way where there aren't trade-offs. And so the point of difference is often that we've found a solution that allows the consumer to get great results without those trade-offs. Like if you look at the eczema and psoriasis brand Bodewell, and I mentioned this on that slide, but if you look at the before and afters, it's crazy. And that consumer is used to using steroids and things like that to control their condition. This is an all natural product that truly delivers unbelievable results. So, having the IP around that, approaching it in a way that is different from the standard solution, that in fact allows the consumer to fire the standard solution in favor of our brand, are all key to the way that we think about what qualifies someone to work with us.
Okay, and on a related question is, how long generally, more or less, does that take, this evaluation of products or companies?
Yeah, I would say that our search and learn phase, which is, where we cast a pretty broad net, work with our partners and things like that to understand, what technology and patents and who's, what's happening in the peer review journals in a particular area or space that we're interested in, is a couple of months. That we do that search and then start to really prioritize the technologies that we think have the most promise. And then from there, of course, you start thinking about, what are the key questions that we have, and how do we go about answering those on a timely basis to decide if we want to continue to pursue a relationship with a particular founder or inventor. So it's a few months that we're in that stage, and generally within 6 months, somebody that we are working with knows if we intend to progress with them or if we're going to pass on the opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much. And we probably have time for just one or two more questions. So let's go on to the next one. There's a question about, it was an earlier group that came up with Febreze, Swiffer, Dryel, and some of those products that was more in-house development. Has that group gone away?
No. So Ventures is really is sort of one vertical of innovation within P&G. And if you look at the business unit structures today, almost every one of them has a greenhouse or a lab or a garage, some kind of sort of new technology vector within the organization, where they're looking to improve technology on existing brands. Within Ventures, where we're working on creating new brands in new categories, it's really a hybrid of internal and external technology. So a lot of the brands that I've talked about that are in market today, and those that are in the queue behind them, are a combination of technology that we have within P&G and technology that we have sourced externally. For example, Kindra, the core technology in that actually comes from our vast knowledge of understanding of skin physiology within P&G. And then, kind of the basket builders of that business are products that we have sourced from other places. So definitely a hybrid, definitely internal and external.
Very good, thank you. And there's a question about generally, how did you come up with these 8 categories of problems to solve? And more specifically, why are there no food or vitamin categories in the adult care?
So about 5 years ago, in fact, we did a very deep dive on consumers and understanding what were the emerging spaces. I talked about who will be consuming and how they will consume, and that deep understanding really helped us to lay out areas where the consumer was not satisfied with the solution, and then of course we crossed that with work that was happening in other innovation streams within the company, and that kind of developed our first list of businesses we wanted to be in. We've since updated that. In fact, we just finished about 3 or 4 months ago another very deep dive, and interestingly, that deep dive happened during the pandemic, which was very interesting. Some of the new spaces that we saw emerging prior to the pandemic starting, and then kind of moving 6 months into this, the consumers' views have only been magnified over the last few months. So we really feel like we've got some meaty next spaces to go into. But again, like everything else in P&G, it really starts with consumer understanding. Understanding what are the jobs to be done, what are the pain points that exist out there, and then how do we work to solve the problem in a way that has never been solved before. So that kind of gives you the foundation there on why we chose the spaces that we're in. We have been very deliberate not to go back into spaces or businesses that P&G has already exited. So for example, in the food and beverage space, as I'm sure all of you know, we had quite a few food and beverage brands over the years that we divested, and P&G has made the strategic choice to say that that is not a core competency of the company, and so we generally don't look in that space. The next question was vitamins, and we do have a vitamin or a supplement brand called New Chapter within P&G. It's in the personal healthcare space, and so generally we have not created vitamin, mineral, or supplement brands within Ventures, but several of our projects do have a supplement that is a part of the full proposition. It's just not it's just generally not the hero because we already have the New Chapter business.
Very good. Thank you so much, Betsy. I want to really thank you for this insightful presentation, as well as the attention that all of our participants have given this presentation and all the thoughtful questions. I'd like to go on to a few announcements that we need to make right now. But again, thank you so much, Betsy.
Thank you.